Steve Nash isn't crazy about it. Wayne Wade said to expect more bricks early in the year, while Shaq slammed it, saying it felt like, quote, one of those toy balls you buy at the toy store.
Now, despite the fact that the material was used at almost every level of play but the NBA, many players complained. The criticism, it bounced differently and was more slippery, they said.
What if I told you that an NBA ball was so bad that it made the players' hands bleed? No, seriously.
I promise when I spit the basketball with my finger right there, it felt like it was cutting.
In 2006, the league introduced a revolutionary new basketball that was supposed to be the future. But instead, it became a total disaster. Here's how it went down. To understand why the NBA made this change, we have to go back, way back, to 1983. That's when Spalding first became the official game ball of the NBA, replacing Wilson. This ball lived through everything. Michael Jordan's rise, Kobe and Shaq's dominance, LeBron's arrival. It was part of basketball history. Then, in the early 2000s, the NBA started making moves to change its image. First, after the infamous Malice at the Palace brawl in 2004, Commissioner David Stern cracked down hard with the longest suspensions in NBA history.
There goes Artest up into the crowd. He's absolutely out.
A year later, he introduced a strict dress code to move away from the league's hip-hop image.
The dress code applies to players at game arenas and while traveling to and from games. Now, consider Richard Rip Hamilton. Under the new dress code, he would have 3 strikes. He's wearing a medallion outside his clothing. That is a violation. He is also wearing headgear presumably not approved by his team or, quote, appropriate to the event. And he is not wearing a collared dress shirt or a turtleneck.
Now, if you think that caused controversy, wait until you hear what happened when the basketball itself got redesigned. In June 2006, the NBA dropped a bombshell. They were ditching the classic leather basketball and replacing it with a synthetic microfiber version. The league hyped it up as the future of basketball, a ball that didn't need to be broken in, had a consistent bounce, and performed better in all conditions. Sounds great, right? Wrong. The biggest issue? The NBA barely tested it. They let 3 retired players, Reggie Miller, Mark Jackson, and Steve Kerr, mess around with it for 45 minutes. That's it.
Mark shot his little teardrop. Reggie shot some threes. I mean, we just messed around a little bit for 45 minutes. I really liked it. I liked the feel. I thought it had more grip than the old ball. What we didn't do was play in a pickup game. We don't do that anymore. We didn't sweat. We didn't get to the point where we were actually perspiring, and that's been the complaint that I've heard from the players, that once they start sweating, the ball gets slick.
No disrespect to Kenny, Cheryl, Steve, or anybody. They should have got some young guys who are going to run up and down the court to test.
No real game testing, no feedback from current players, just a couple of dudes shooting around the gym. The result? A ball that bounced weirdly, got away too slippery when wet, even cut players' hand. Shaq said it felt like a toy store ball. Steve Nash complained it messed up his fingers. Dirk Nowitzki and Jason Kidd reported getting small cuts from the rough texture. The players were not having it.
Steve Nash isn't crazy about it. Wayne Wade said to expect more bricks early in the year, while Shaq slammed it, saying it felt like, quote, one of those toy balls you buy at the toy store.
Now, despite the fact that the material was used at almost every level of play but the NBA, many players complained. The criticism, it bounced differently and was more slippery, they said.
Okay, so which of those balls would you like to play a game with if you had to play tonight?
This one.
You'd like to play with that
Yes.
ball?
Yes.
Look what you chose.
This is an old NBA ball.
You did, the leather.
Mark Cuban, always one to challenge the NBA, wasn't buying the league's claims, so he had the ball scientifically tested at the University of Texas at Arlington. The results? The new ball bounced 30% more erratically than the leather ones. It didn't absorb sweat, meaning moisture stayed on the surface, making it even more slippery, and worst of all, it wore out faster than the old ball. Yet, despite all of this, David Stern doubled down. The NBA tried to convince players that they'd get used to it. Spoiler alert, they didn't. At first, fans didn't even see the difference. But on November 12, 2006, Vince Carter gave everyone a front row seat to the problem. Down 3 points, he launched a buzzer-beating shot against the Wizards. Swish, game tie.
Here's Carter for the tie. Yes! Vince Carter at the buzzer from downtown.
When the reporters asked him if that shot would have gone in with the old leather ball, Carter didn't hesitate. Heck no. No way. Meanwhile, players were growing more frustrated and technical fouls shot up 46% that season. Coincidence? Probably not. Then, in December, things hit a boiling point. The Players Association filed an official grievance against the NBA for not consulting them on the decision. Faced with a potential lawsuit, David Stern finally backed down.
The players don't like it, and NBA Commissioner David Stern admits he probably should have talked to them before introducing it. The "it" we're talking about is the league's new basketball.
On December 11, 2006, David Stern announced that the league was scrapping the synthetic ball and bringing back the leather one on January 1st, 2007.
New Year's Eve, and then starting against Sacramento, they go back to the leather ball.
But even then, he couldn't resist taking a final shot at the players, saying, "Testing showed the new ball was statistically better, but the most important stat is how the players feel about it." Yeah, if literally everyone hates the ball, maybe it's not better. Just a thought, David. But here's the wildest part. This wasn't really the end of the synthetic ball influence. The next season, the NBA introduced a new version of the leather ball using the same panel design as the synthetic ball. So in a way, that disastrous experiment still left a mark on the game. And in 2001, the NBA switched back to Wilson as the official ball manufacturer for the first time since 1983. The new Wilson ball, almost identical to the Spalding final version. So the next time you watch an NBA game, just remember, the ghost of the 2006 synthetic ball is still bouncing around in every dribble, shot, and dunk. Crazy, right? The 2006 NBA ball change is a perfect example of what happens when nobody listens to the players. A billion-dollar league, a rush decision, and a ball that was so bad, it made history. What do you think? Should the NBA have given the synthetic ball another chance, or was it doomed from the start? Let me know in the comments below.